Good morning, guys. I'm Lori. I'm a reptile keeper here at Josh's Frogs, and I want to share with you guys some ideas of what you can use as humid hides and why they're important. So first of all, it doesn't have to be fancy. You could use any kind of container. You're going to need something that has like maybe a lid perhaps, and you're going to want to either cut a hole in it, or perhaps, there are some places who do already provide humid hides, but this is like a little DIY. Something that's super cheap and inexpensive, and you don't have to worry about spending a ton of money on. So what I have here is just like a little deli. The lid comes off super easy. There's an entryway right here for the animal to go in, and most importantly, you want to make sure this isn't sharp. You can either take like a hot iron tool and melt the inside rim of it so that way it's not sharp, because you don't want your animal to get hurt while they're just trying to chill in their humid hide. So I have a couple different sizes. So there's these ones. This one is quite large, same concept as these. We just cut a hole in it. It's got a lid. You can open it up for easy access. Just like that. And you see this one already has moss in it. It's been pre-wetted. So when it comes to making sure your humid hide is humid, I say the best way to do it is to test it. Feel it with your hands. See how wet it is. Because you don't want it to be sopping wet, but you also don't want it to be bone dry, because then they don't benefit from being able to get away and hide in a humid little spot. The reason why that's important is because reptiles, they shed. Well, sometimes shed gets dry and hard to come off. Well, they can retreat somewhere that's nice and cool and like moist, and that'll help the shed no problem. So I'm going to show you how to make some. Again, here's another one, only this one's like a top entry. And so we're going to take our sphagnum moss here, our Josh's Frogs sphagnum moss. You can use any sphagnum moss, really. And you're going to want to take some water, preferably either RO water, or you're going to want to use dechlorinated water. So I'm going to spray some water into this cup just to make my life a little easier so I don't make a giant mess. But you could spray the moss directly, whatever works best for you. But I'm going to show you about the correct level of wetness that it needs to be. It's easier if I just show you rather than just talking about it. I am a visual learner, and I learn best when I watch somebody else do it. So you're going to take like a nice little chunk, and you're going to let it rehydrate. Sometimes it takes a second. The moss has got to soak it up like a sponge. It'll start to come apart. It'll be loose and fluffy and soft, and that's like perfect. Now, for humidity levels, what I like to do is I ball it up like this, and I take both of my hands, and I squeeze as much of the excess water as I possibly can out, just like that. And sometimes you might need to do this a couple of times, that's fine. But you want to squeeze until there's hardly any more water coming out of the moss. Just like that. There. All right. And I'm just going to put some in here. So, I'm going to spread it around, make it all nice and fluffy, just like that. Ta-da! It's super easy, guys. Now, one thing I do have to say, though, is if you choose to have a humid hide that has the hole in the top, just be more aware that the humidity might evaporate a lot faster than it would in, say, one of these enclosure little lid things that, has a top over it where the hole is on the side. As things dry out, humidity, evaporates. So if you choose to have something like this, you're just going to want to pay a little bit better attention. You might need to mist or re-wet it more often, and that's okay. Totally up to you what you decide to do. And there's tons of different options too. Like I said, I have one pre-made already, but in our viper geckos and like micro species, you can even take a cup like this cut a little tiny hole in the front. And for us to make it easier, we put a little hole in the top, and that's where we actually mist down inside. So this would sit in your enclosure, and this is the moss, and you would just set it just like that. And your little animal can go right inside that hole, get all nice and cozy and all humid, and yeah, it works awesome. So that's about all I have to say for the sphagnum moss. Now, if you don't want to use sphagnum moss, there are other options. So I'm going to move this aside, and I'm going to grab this one. Again, it's just like an acrylic box. We cut a hole in, and it's been nice and filed down, so it's not sharp. It's not going to hurt your animal. There's two ways to do it. You can either pour it in through the hole, or easy access. You could just literally pop it open like that. And I'm going to show you the vermiculite. I would recommend this for bigger species, just because it's so fine and tiny. Wouldn't really do so well with smaller species. This could work for some deserts, that don't need a ton of humidity, but you're always going to want to provide that anyway. So I'm going to pour this in here, maybe about like that much. And this stuff you also are going to want to wet. And again, you can mist the top of it, just like this. And vermiculite is a little bit different from sphagnum moss because you don't need to wet it nearly as much. And you can see it kind of clumps up almost like kitty litter. And that's like perfect right there. But I like to mix it up with my hands a little bit, make sure all of those granules get mixed together, make sure they all get nice and wet. Oops, I'm just making a mess everywhere. That's all right. It's messy. And I just like to, ta-da, just like that. Or if you don't want it to be on the side, you can just literally roll it over just like that, and they can still enter through the top. This also could be great for an egg-laying box too. Now, if you breed animals, sometimes the animals may choose to lay their eggs in the sphagnum moss, and if you wish to breed them and whatnot, it's also important to make sure that that moss or the vermiculite is nice and humid. Otherwise, the eggs will dry up and they'll look like little raisins, and they likely won't survive. So there's that. After I've made a mess. And the last thing I have to show you is excavator clay. This is also a fantastic way to create and mold your own hide. This is like a clay substance, and you mix it with water. On the back it has instructions of exactly how much. I'm not going to do that on camera because it is very, very, very messy, but I will show you some examples of where we actually have used this in our department. So this cage here is a work in progress for our red Ackie monitors. This is what the excavator clay is supposed to look like once it's been mixed up and molded. What we did is we took like a giant tube and we put it down there in the corner, and we literally molded it all the way around and let it sit for about a day. And then we carefully wiggled the tube out, and then you're left behind with this, a naturalistic humid hide. And this here, you can see I have this little device here that actually shows the humidity. It holds very well. Desert species also need humidity as well. Again, as I mentioned, it helps with shedding. So it's really important to have something. And if you're looking for something more natural, excavator clay is awesome. It doesn't even have to always be used just for desert species. You can use it for a wide variety as well. But yeah, you can see it's climbing. Now it's up to 70% humidity, but it does reach up to 100%. Not that your humid hides always need to be that exact measurement, but yeah, it's perfect for them to retreat when they get a little too warm. They need to cool off. perfect little spot. All right, this is gonna wrap it up for the end of my little Humid Hide talk, but I wanted to show you guys a special treat with our red Ackie monitors we recently acquired. So this is a temporary setup while we build their custom enclosure. And this is Ripley and Hicks. Thank you guys for watching. We can't wait to share more info and updates and all of our animals with you.
Thanks so much for watching this video. Here at Josh's Frogs, bringing nature to your doorstep is more than just our mission, it's our passion. We want you to have the most successful experience possible, so we're going to be here for you before, during, and after your purchase, whether that's with our captive-bred animals, plants, insects, or the wide variety of their care products on our website. You always have access to our dedicated customer service team, on-site nature experts, hundreds of free articles via our blog, and many more videos right here on our YouTube channel, so be sure to subscribe. We're always happy to help. Just shoot us an email or give us a call. You can find all of this information and more at joshsfrogs.com. Thanks again, and see you next time.